Hey there, everybody. Jessica Carter here.
With Matt Carter.
Today we're going to be talking about This Is Us and some theories coming up, but also just about timelines. So I've seen a lot in the comments. People have been sort of wondering, why do Kevin and Randall and Rebecca look so old when it's really only supposed to be 10 years in the future? Some people are getting kind of confused with, is Jack Damon an adult at the time that Rebecca is on her deathbed? Or is this like future? There's a lot going on here. And so we thought we'd come on here today and sort of tell you what we know about these timelines and what's going on with all of that. But before we do that, if you do like this video, give us a like and a subscribe and give us the thumbs up, ring the bell, all that really good stuff so that you can stay in the loop with all our This Is Us stuff. Because even though the show is over for right now and the season is done, we still have more discussions coming up and we wouldn't want you to miss out on it.
No, absolutely.
Okay, so first we're going to start out with some of the theories that are going out there. So here's the thing. Kevin and Randall and Rebecca look a lot older than just 10 years in the future. And the thing about that is for me personally, I just think that the makeup team kind of dropped the ball on this in some ways. I'm not saying that people can't look that much older when they're in their 50s. I mean, I know you can't really see it with me because I dye my hair. I'm 45, half my hair is gray. By the time I'm Randall and Kevin's age at like 50 or 52, I'm probably going to look like them as well.
Well, I think there's a couple of things that are going on. I think maybe a part of it is that the makeup team went a little bit too aggressive. But I also wonder this, is it a deliberate sort of production choice? Because let's say that they put 50% less gray into Kevin and sort of his getup. Mm-hmm. Are people going to be able to directly differentiate, or are they going to say, oh, is this just a couple of years in the future? I think this is just my theory on it, that they go so far into overdrive here with some of this, because they really want to create a big distinction between where they are now and where they are in the future. It may be a little bit too much, but I think they wanted to make it painstakingly obvious.
Yeah, I think they really wanted you to know that this was in the future.
Yeah.
And the way that they were able to do that was to really age everyone up. And so that's what I think has happened. I think they went a little bit overboard. But at the same time, they wanted to make sure that everybody knew that this was in the future.
And they're going to do another flash forward, I hear, that's going to be like 25 years beyond this, and they're all going to be skeletons at that point, because they really need to show the differentiation. I'm kidding.
So, yeah, so that's the thing about it, is I think that that's what's going on with the makeup team and what's happened with the show. So I think our timeline really is just about 10 years in the future, and it's for a few reasons. One of them, now we've seen Kevin's kids in this timeline, and they are about 11 years old. I've seen some theories going on out there. You guys have mentioned in the comments that maybe this is a second set of twins. That's not really that common, so I'd be more likely to think that that's a no. But also, if we're just looking at age, and if this is really they're in their 60s, and we did see Sterling put on his Instagram sort of this just fun post dancing around with Kevin's daughter, which legit, I think he's just having fun. I don't think he's trying to say that it's 2045.
Yeah, I think he just plucked a year out of thin air, and I think that's led to a lot of confusion.
For sure.
Sterling K. Brown, wonderful guy, great actor. However, I do not believe his Instagram posts are This Is Us canon.
No.
Yeah.
And so if it really was 20 more years in the future, that would mean that Kevin would be in his 60s with a 10-year-old. So I'm not saying it's not possible. There are lots of people that have kids when they're older. Mick Jagger's got kids and he's now in his like 70s or 80s or whatever, and he's got really young kids. It does happen. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's what's happening here. I don't think he became a dad in his 50s. If he did, and for all the Sophie shippers out there, it wouldn't be hers, because then she would also be in her 50s. And while some people can have children that late, it is also very rare. And I don't think that that's what's happening. I think that he's 50 years later, his children are 11.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much that this is almost exactly as it's presented, that he's got one set of twins, you're going forward around a decade, this is about how old they would be, he would be in his 50s, around 50 at this point, and I think they went a little bit aggressive with the makeup, but I think there are a lot of twists that we don't know as of yet, but I don't think they're going to be of the here's another set of twins, because I think they want to steer away from things that are going to get people really into deep dives into mathematical possibilities.
Yeah, and I think they also just want to keep this show more in relatable reality. There's not a lot of people out there that have multiples on top of multiples into their 60s. This show does a really good job of keeping stories really relatable. And I think if he's got two sets of twins and he's having kids in his 60s, it's starting to get a little more soap opera-y and a little less reality based. The real clincher here of why we think that it is 10 years in the future is because the creator of the show has said that it's 10 years in the future. So he was speaking to TV Line. It was a while ago. We saw this article today where he said that because people were starting to get confused with that premiere where it was like, oh, Jack Damon is like an adult and he's a singer, and like, is this the same timeline as what's going on with Rebecca on her deathbed? It is not the same timeline. When Rebecca is on her deathbed, he said that Jack Damon would be about 12. So that would make Kevin's kids a little bit younger. They would be about 11. So that's where we are. That's 10 years in the future. So he also said that for Jack Damon, when he is an adult, it would be about 10 years plus from there. So he'll be in his mid-20s by the time we see him, and he's singing, and he's having his kid, and all this stuff is happening with him.
Yeah, now you've come up with a really good name, and I think this is what we'll do moving forward in order to differentiate this stuff. So the timeline with Rebecca on her deathbed, that is the future.
Yes.
And then for Jack Damon as an adult,
we have the future.
So there you go. That way it's kind of, hopefully we can kind of come up with our own terminology here. I mean, I've already talked about Dr. Horse on 2 different videos now, so.
Yeah, so that'll help you guys know when we're talking about the future, Rebecca deathbed, future, Jack Damon as an adult.
And, with this in mind, theoretically, it is then possible that we could see a number of characters within the This Is Us world at the future, because presumably then you would have Kevin would be in his, all the big 3 would be kind of early 60s at this point, and so they should all, hopefully, knock on wood, be very much alive, and maybe, here's just an interesting thing I sort of thought about, is for a long time, I kind of thought This Is Us was the story of sort of Rebecca and her life, that she was really the primary lens that we were sort of viewing everything in. Is that not necessarily the case now? Because I sort of thought that the series was going to basically end with everyone getting together at her deathbed. But do you think it's possible now that we've spent so much time in the future with this Jack that maybe it's all going to end with a lot of the characters who are still alive sort of convening around Jack Damon becoming a father? Could they all show up there?
I do, and I think that's why we had a discussion a little while ago about sort of how long we think that this show is going to go on, and they've already renewed it until season 6.
Yeah.
I don't think that it has to end there. And I'm not saying it needs to go into season 10 and overstay its welcome. But I think a season 7 or even possibly a season 8 is enough. Because this isn't only Rebecca and Jack's love story. This is a story about family and legacy and all of the family. So seeing a little bit more about Jack Damon in the future when he's a dad and what's going on. We still don't even know what's going on with Kate and Toby's relationship status. They have clearly made that a secret, so we don't know what's going on at that point. And watching them become grandparents and, you know, all this sort of stuff continuing on into the future, there is more story to be told. And the example I always kind of go to is Vikings, for any other Vikings fans out there. And I'm going to spoil it, so if you haven't seen Vikings, just like this right now. Vikings was a story when you first started watching it and you thought it was about Ragnar and his wife Lagertha and that it was about them. And then halfway through the story and the series, they killed him off. So then the story went on for 3 more seasons, and it was not, you realize it wasn't just about him. It was about him and his sons. So once he was dead and gone, it was about the legacy of the family and what his sons went on to do and their adventures that they had and what they were leaving behind with their kids. And this show kind of reminds me of that in that way, that this isn't just about Rebecca and Jack. There is more story to be told of what's going on with the big 3. What's going on with their kids as they're growing up. And I'm not saying we need to go into legacy on legacy and let's learn about, you know, Jack Damon's child 30 years in that future. But I think there's still more story to be told.
I think in the end it's going to be a really interesting discussion that happens at season 5 because, you know, I'm still in the camp that thinks that it's going to end in season 6, but at the same time, like you said, there is more story that could be told. This show has great ratings for NBC. I could see, even if the creator wanted to end it in season 6, NBC going to him and be like, look at this giant bag of money, if it would convince you to do a season 7. I don't think we can really rule anything out until they officially label it final season.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I know that some of you have said in the comments that Milo has said that season 6 is the final season, but until I hear it from NBC, it is not the final season because they are really the ones that are going to have the final say on whether they're ending their show or not.
Yeah.
And getting the 2 renewals made it, of course, people think that, you know, or to get to season 6, that was just going to be the end because that's as far as they renewed. But I mean, that doesn't mean anything.
The only other example I can think of is Game of Thrones, where for a long time everyone kind of was saying that it was going to end in season 7 because that sort of aligned with the idea of the books, but then it ended up doing a season 8. So we'll see what happens in the long term. In the future of This Is Us, to throw that back around. But anyway, let us know in the comments what you think we're going to learn about all of these different timelines, and hopefully this helped to clear up some things. And if you guys did like this video, be sure to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and you guys can support us further by checking the link in the description to the store, and we'll see you here next time.